Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a brand new video. Sienna here. Today I want to talk about the ethical psychic and what makes an ethical psychic. So in this video, I just want to share important pieces of advice and tips that I had learned from other psychics and other sources when I was first starting out in my practice. And I was thinking that some of these would help you as well, especially to you guys who are new and aspiring psychics and want to learn all about this. So stick around. The first thing I want to talk about is consent, because consent is essential. It is absolutely paramount to your psychic practice. So like I was saying, it's incredibly important to respect boundaries, even if it is a loved one or a friend or a person that you know. Just because you have a psychic insight, or sometimes I call it an intuitive hit or an intuitive ping on them, doesn't mean you should always blurt it out to them. It's best that you ask them if it's okay to relay some psychic information, or wait for them to ask you if they've already had readings from you in the past, or if they're already aware of your psychic abilities and want to come to you for help. But I get it. Sometimes a really, really important message comes in, or just something comes in so strong, and the urge to relay it to that person is just so strong. But it's important that you ask first. Sometimes we have to keep our insights to ourselves because for various reasons it could be inappropriate to share them. It could be like an inappropriate time, or maybe the person just doesn't really believe in psychic messages and abilities and communication like that. And some people just don't care either. If they don't want to know, don't push it. Don't force anything. Now, something else that's important is that consent does not just extend to the people living on Earth. It also extends to those in spirit. Let's say like a client on Earth does not want to talk to a certain person in spirit. Okay, maybe you're doing a medium reading for someone and they have an ex-partner or an ex-spouse that comes through, and the client goes, no, I don't want to talk to that person for whatever reasons that they have. We never know what other people have been through in life, so you never know why somebody doesn't want to connect with a loved one that's trying to come in, or a loved one, or a person, I should say, who's trying to come in. And then if somebody in spirit does not want to come through and talk to you or connect, don't force it, like I was saying, because one, it probably won't work anyways, and you won't be able to get them. You might not feel their presence. You might just get nothing. Or two, you might connect to somebody else that maybe loves and cares about the client you're speaking to, but it just won't be the person that they wanted. Or another thing that could happen is if you force that connection, the person in spirit goes, ugh, okay, fine, whatever, I'll come through. They may not give you the information that you want to know. They might not tell you what it is that you want to hear from them. And in some cases, they may even just stick around and you can feel their presence, but they'll give you nothing. Even if you put down tarot cards to try and get an idea of what they want to communicate, you might not pick up any insights with the cards. And there are times where I've had it before, reading on something where at first I didn't realize that, oh, this person doesn't want to share this information that I was like asking about, or that the client was asking about. I would pick up no insights, no clairaudient messages, no mental images, nothing like that from the person in spirit. I'd put down the cards and the cards would make no sense. The only time for me, if my cards do not make sense, is when I'm reading on something that spirit's going, you don't need to know that. That used to happen a lot when I did political readings on my channel. I don't do them anymore, but it used to happen a lot back then. Now, as for remote viewing, I personally don't do a lot of remote viewing. I just haven't learned very much about it. But I know something that another psychic, a very well-known and well-respected psychic, had told me in the past. When it comes to remote viewing, they would ask that person's higher self hey, so-and-so's higher self, can I come in and observe? And then this person said, if you get a clear yes from spirit or from the higher self, then go ahead. Anything but a clear yes should be taken as a no. The next thing I want to talk about are what I call third-party readings. Now, I did cover this a little bit in one of my past videos. It was my second Tarot Myths video. I'll throw a card or a link or something about here-ish. A third-party reading would be asking about somebody other than yourself, if you're the client. Asking about your child or your children, whether they're grown or they're still little. Asking about your neighbors, your friends, your loved ones, your whoever it is, just somebody outside of yourself. There is a way to do third-party readings in an ethical manner. And then there are some third-party readings that I just don't even want to touch. So let's just start with the ones that I won't even touch, okay? It might be different for other psychics. Like I said, everybody practices this craft in their own unique way, but for me, if somebody asks me something like, is so-and-so gay? Is my friend gay, or is my neighbor gay, or is my whatever? Or questions like, how is my neighbor's marriage? What's happening in her relationship? Or asking about something that and I've had this before. Somebody said, well, I tried asking them about this and they didn't want to tell me, so I want to know what it was. I won't tell you either, because chances are that information, Spirit will probably not even let me receive it. I won't touch those. I also am very hesitant when it comes to people asking about, well, what is my employee thinking? What are my students thinking? What's going on with, specific person that I'm responsible for? There are kind of ways to go about looking at this, but it wouldn't be by asking those types of questions. So here's how we can do a third-party reading in an ethical manner. 1, get the person's consent. There's the client and then the person the client is asking about. Get their consent, get it in an email, or tell the client to have that person next to them or in the same room as them during the reading. That way you know for sure that everybody involved is aware of what's being talked about and nobody feels like they've had a boundary overstepped or that an aspect of their privacy has been invaded. Sometimes you have to change how you ask the question. Instead of asking, what's happening in my friend's head? She's been really closed off and quiet and weird. What's she thinking about? What's going on? You can ask, well, my loved one or my friend is going through a hard time. What can I do to support them and help them? Is there anything I can do? Or is there anything I should ask them about? Because that puts more of the reading on the client themselves instead of the person they're trying to ask about. Other questions that are okay to ask are like, is there anything I should address or bring up with my kids? Or what can I do to improve my parenting or my teaching? Or what can I do to improve my workplace, my home, my classroom? And it's less about asking what's going on in somebody else's head or less about asking what is going on in somebody else's life. There are times where a person, if you want to know about somebody, you're just going to have to ask them yourself because a tarot reader might not be able to tell you. Never, ever, ever make stuff up. If you don't know what an image that you're getting or what a message means, tell that to your client. Just say, hey, relay as best you can what came in. Hey, this came in and I am getting this mental image. This is what I'm seeing. However, I don't really know what it means. This might be something that you understand, or it could be something that will make sense in the future. Because sometimes not everything makes sense in the present moment when it comes in. And sometimes The client might have information that they did not tell you, and what you're picking up is in line with this information that they have already. So if you don't know what something means, don't guess, don't make stuff up. Don't do that. Don't do that. That is not okay. That's just, it's almost like taking the information you get from spirit and being like, I don't really like that, or I don't really like how, or I don't know how I'm going to put that, so I'm just going to tell them this thing that they might want to hear instead. Don't just tell people what they want to hear, because no, lying is not worth it. It's not worth it. If you're giving your interpretation of a message or of an image or something that you got, just make sure you let that person know, hey, this is just my interpretation of what is coming in. This is what I understand from the information that I have. Because that will show that you are trying your best to do this reading to the best of your ability. You're being honest. It shows your integrity. This is one of those lines of work where, because we're dealing with other people's emotions, we're dealing with other people's grief, their confusion, they're emotionally vulnerable when they come to you as a psychic. We don't want to do anything that will end up causing them pain in the future. And then, okay, this maybe is in a similar vein to don't make stuff up. Sometimes bad news comes in. Sometimes it happens, or a person in spirit tells something or relays something that might actually be upsetting to the client. Be careful how you deliver bad news. Give the news as gently as you can, but then always make sure that you offer up, here's some advice from spirit, here's some comforting words from spirit. And I'm like shuffling my invisible cards in my hand right now as I'm doing this. I don't know why I do these things, but always be sure to ask spirit for a message of hope or something positive instead of just bad news. Maybe deliver bad news and then good news. Ask for things that your client can look forward to in the future. Ask about blessings that are gonna come in, instead of just leaving off with like bad news or difficult information. There are ways to deliver difficult news and then providing comfort without just telling them like meaningless, hopeful words, or, without making things up and just telling them something that you think that they would want to hear. The last thing I want to talk about is making sure that, above all, you serve others with love and empathy. And most psychics are good and empathetic and genuine. There are some out there who just only care about the dollar and will cheat and will lie and will just tell the client whatever they want to hear. But I think that with a gift like this, psychic abilities, spirit communication, being able to help other people change their own lives and being able to bring comfort and help facilitate healing in other people through this practice, it is such a privilege. It is an amazing honor to be able to do this. And we're all able to do this, by the way. But it's an honor that we get to do this while we are alive on Earth. And I just want to make sure that I treat this line of work with respect, and I treat my clients with respect, and that I do everything that I do with the best intentions of love, light, peace. You're not going to have a perfect day every day. It's not going to be perfect all the time. You might have some off days where you have trouble interpreting messages, and maybe your reading was not quite as accurate as your other ones have been. But as long as we do the best we can and we make that conscious effort to be empathetic, to be caring, to be kind, and to be genuine, I think that helps make this whole psychic practice so much more trustworthy and ethical and positive. So I hope this video was helpful to some of you out there. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts were and what kind of information and advice you'd been given regarding ethical practice in the whole psychic realm. But with that, you guys, thank you so much for watching.